Well, Gregg, Aldana, welcome to the Solution Heroes webinar podcast, episode number 2. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here, Chris. Thanks for inviting me, and just a great organization, and always I love reading and listening to all the topics you guys have out there. So I'm really excited about participating today.
Yeah, I mean, look, the way you and I connected is I saw your post on SE 2.0, and that's for those listening, that's S and C is in Charlie, so
Yeah,
solution consultant,
yeah.
2.0, and I was like, I freaking love this. And I reached out to you and I was like, Gregg, this initiative is amazing, dude. I want to see more of it. And where is it located? Can you share a PDF? And we started talking, and then we decided to do a dinner together.
Yeah.
And you were the only guest that couldn't make it because you got
I
sick.
I a guy who never gets sick. I'm
Yeah.
like biohacker, and I do all these little tricks and trades to keep myself healthy with elderberry and hydrogen water. And you know what? The flu just knocked me down literally 2 days. Like I was supposed to do an interview here at headquarters.
Yep.
I'm looking across the way at somebody. I'm like, I think I need to go home. I can't hold my head up. So I feel very bad. So I'm glad he's fine. So
No, it happens. It happens. That's what live events are. So for those of you who don't know Gregg, Gregg is a public speaker. He's a thought leader in the solution space. He has TED-style approach to business and tech transformation in general. So he's now the VP and head of global sales consulting at Appian, where he's pioneering the pre-sales and leading teams worldwide and helping them accelerate the transformation through AI-powered low-code automation. So, Gregg, you've been in the game 25 years.
oh my God.
He's advised 200 plus CIOs and business leaders annually. And his career spans roles at ServiceNow, FDIC, US Selected Service System, where you spearheaded like really large modernization efforts.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased to have you with us because that amount, I think you couldn't have created SC 2.0 without all this. And I'm happy to break down your journey, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's been quite a journey. And I think it probably started way before 25 years ago. I mean, professionally been 25 years ago, but literally yeah, I mean, I was in third grade. I saw the movie War Games. And
Okay.
there's a
Yep.
poster on my wall back here. I begged my dad to buy me a computer right back there. And, it was like I wanted to hack into the Department of Defense. And it's just been this lifelong love affair since that moment. That's what I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to use technology to solve practical problems. At the time, I was using it to manage my baseball card collection
Awesome.
and manage, and publish an underground magazine on the rock band Kiss. I was just, again, using technology to solve practical problems, and I've made a career out of it. So
So you definitely have a lot of passion projects then. I can tell.
it is. I wake up every day and I'm like, I have the best job, I have the best career. I can't believe they pay me for this.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I love doing this. And how I stumbled upon pre-sales maybe about 10 years ago. I wish I would have known about it 30 years ago. So
And on that point, what do you think one of the biggest misconceptions of the pre-sales profession is out there that you want to clear up? Like, what's your hot take on that?
Um, I mean, there's a few. I mean, I think the word sales sometimes scares people. Like pre-sales, what does that mean? I'm
Yeah.
putting together invoices and purchase orders, and I'm negotiating, and I got to be like the guy, the car salesman at the lot here. Like, no, that's not what this is. And for people that even do know what pre-sales or sales engineering or solutions consulting is, I think the biggest misconception for people that are in this industry that know what the profession is that they think it's a very limited role. Like this is, the demo dolly or the demo monkey or the people that just come in a very limited fashion, demonstrate what I'm here to sell, and then go about your merry way. And I think that is the biggest misconception. When I arrived here at Appian, that was status quo here for a while. And
Yeah.
so a very limited set of expectations. When I sat through orientation, like during my second day here at Appian, 6 months ago, and the person, who now works for me was presenting the pre-sales section of orientation. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to change.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was a very limited set. We only
Yep.
committed stage 3 and 4 to do the demos, and there was a whole laundry list of qualifications to actually even get access to an SC. And I'm like, it looks like you guys have been burned before. Like there was this hesitation about people wasting their time. So I think the biggest misconception is that sales engineering or pre-sales is really they're just there to demonstrate and do demos, great demos of the technology. And that is probably the smallest thing we do in terms of impact. It's an important thing we do. We do it, but the misconception, that's all we do. And I would say that's the biggest misconception.
Yeah, well said. I relate to so much of what you just said. I've worked in organizations where you walk the floor and it's like, hey, we tell people how to use the product. You hear things like we educate people on how the tech works. Like
Yeah.
that's not our role. And actually, we influence board level metrics. Um,
Oh, it is, and it can be so much more.
yeah,
And
exactly.
people just need to see it in action. And once you've seen it, you can never go back.
Yeah.
But
It's like taking the pill
yeah,
on the Matrix.
exactly. Yeah. So
You recently shifted from ServiceNow to Appian.
yeah,
You're leading the global solutions team.
yeah.
Some people may say you're crazy for leaving ServiceNow, such an amazing organization. What are you fired up about? Because there's got to be something that brought you to Appian to say, man, I'm going to lead this global team. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, so as I'm getting around and I'm traveling globally and meeting with different teams here internally at Appian as well as externally, our customers and our partners, I get this question 3 times a day. Oh my God, ServiceNow is killing it. How could you leave or why would you leave a company like that? And it was a great company, still is a great company. It's
Yeah,
one of the best
sure.
companies out there. And I learned so much there. And when I joined ServiceNow a long time ago, it was a much smaller company, and we were figuring out a lot of things as we went along and building a lot of pre-sales and go-to-market functions and building new organizations. Like I led, the platform App Engine team there, and that whole go-to-market build out over an 8-year period. It didn't exist when I got there, so I get to build that from scratch. So I'm a builder. I love to build teams up. When I joined ServiceNow, there were about 4,000 employees. When I left, about 26,000. I mean, that's a massive amount of growth.
Wow.
But um, I think what I was looking for, and I was, looking for a long time, I was looking to find a smaller organization where I could go in and have a bigger impact and build again. I wanted to build something. And so I didn't want to just, I wasn't running from anything. You don't just leave a company. I
Yeah.
was looking for the right culture, the right technology, the right opportunity where all of this great experience I had at ServiceNow and at the FDIC and Selective Service and being a Microsoft consultant, I could funnel all this together and have a great impact, like a company that needed me as much as I needed them. And I had a former colleague who had been working at Appian for maybe about 7 or 8 months, in different roles, and he was the acting CRO, and he reached out to me, and it was exactly what I was looking for. This world-class technology that's right in my wheelhouse: application development, process automation, transformation. Um, amazing customers and just really under-marketed and undervalued and just so much potential, to capitalize on a lot of the things that I've done and lessons I've learned. But I didn't just come here to rerun my ServiceNow playbook. And I told everyone, like, that's not what SE 2.0, like, that's not what this is. I
Yeah.
said, I came here to write the 2030 Appian playbook that hasn't been written yet. We're going to blaze a completely new trail. It's a new time in market. It's a new place. And given what Appian's technology is and just how profound it is, pre-sales is going to be a really important ingredient into the growth of this company. So I think I'm so pumped up to be here. I've got a great team. I mean, these are world-class solution consultants, world-class technology. I think when I first got to ServiceNow, technology was great, but we had some work to do, before we could
Mhm.
really go to market with the core platform. Unless you were an admin, you couldn't build on it. And here I'm walking into a place where the technology is completely evolved, and it's the sales and solution consulting teams and functions that need some growth and evolution and maturity. And so it's kind of great. It's a different problem to have, but I couldn't be more pumped up about the way this technology is being used currently by our customers. When I was at ServiceNow, one of the things I was known for is being the storyteller and collecting and publishing great stories about how customers were doing it. And so when I got here, I'm like, I got to learn the stories. I don't know these stories. And as I'm getting around and I'm meeting more customers and I'm reading internally the stories, the transformation that Appian is doing is extraordinary. It's like we're solving the problems that all other technology companies like ServiceNow, Microsoft, and Salesforce kind of avoid because they're really difficult. We go right after them. So it's exciting, man. I couldn't be more excited to talk more about it.
That's
Get the
cool.
message out. Get the message out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you're fired up, and I think that's like you're fired up about solving all those fun, chunky, business-focused story problems. Now, we've mentioned the SE 2.0 a few times already.
Yeah.
I want to break it down and kind of open up
Yeah.
behind the curtains.
Yeah.
And my understanding is you have some core pillars of this thing. So
Yeah.
tell us about the core pillars of SE 2.0. What kind of makes the thing stand up?
Well, the first thing, so when I first got here, I spent the first couple of weeks just kind of taking inventory of what is the current state of the solution consulting organization. And I literally like 2 weeks into this, everyone's asking, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think internally? And I said, my initial observations of this company is that we are completely technology focused. We are so focused on our technology, our features, our functions, our from the top on down of the company, not just solution consulting. And I said, so check, great. We're the technical experts in sales. So yeah, we've got that in spades. I said, but what's missing here is the why. And you see that book back there, Start with the Why, Simon Sinek, one of my favorite
Yeah,
authors.
that's a great book.
Um, People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I said, while our technology is world class and it's great, and we can talk about feature for feature why it's one of the best in the industry. I said, what's even more impressive is the why, is the outcomes behind what we're selling. And so this is where we have to shift. I have to shift this organization to start focusing on different things. So the first thing I decided to do with that, I'm like, we got to give it a name. And I said, it's almost like this company is like the last generation solution consultant, from like 10 years ago. It just reminds me of pre-sales 10 years ago. So I said, I want to give people a vision of the future. And I'm like, we're that next generation. This is 2.0. This is the next version of the software, right? Like
Yeah.
and people, we're software people. So people started to get behind it. And then I gave it a mission statement. I gave it that big, bold, audacious goal that we are going to become, one of the best top class solution consulting organizations in the entire tech industry, setting the standard, that gold standard for excellence, innovation, and customer impact. And that people are going to be beating down a door to get in here. It's going to be the hottest place to work in the industry. And, there's a lot more detail. So
I love that.
how are you going to build this organization? What does that look like? That sounds
Yeah.
really cool. I want to go work there. So what are the 6 pillars that we're going to focus on in 2025 behind this organization? So, aligning with, our company goals and our sales goals, really, I just focused on 6 major pillars. One is proactive customer engagement and expansion. And really what I looked at this is that our SEs were very focused on stage 3 and stage 4. And so we need to expand that. They need to get involved from stage 1 all the way through stage 7. And I can definitely unpack that for you. But getting involved in those early discovery and qualification conversations, leading to value-driven workshops, and going all the way to the end and helping expand these deals. The second area is value-based storytelling and demonstration. So I'm a big believer in selling and communicating with great stories. And so that is like, I set it as a goal this year that every SE has got to publish at least one solution story every quarter. We have over 111 SEs. And so, times 4, we're going to build up a big repository, but we implemented a framework around persona-based storytelling that we can frame our demos in terms of a story, lead with the outcome. Lead with the last page of the book first.
Right.
How much time is this going to save? What pain is this what problem is this going to solve? The next area, the next pillar is quota and pipeline ownership and growth. So, I come from a world where, solution consultants are very sales focused and very sales disciplined, and SCs and SC managers manage their areas and their accounts and their territories as the book of business
Right.
and
Right.
almost a small business owner. And so when I came here, I started asking SCs and SC leaders about that. And I was getting a lot of, well, we've never really been asked about that. What is that? And so if you're a small business owner, right, this is the analogy. You're looking about where, what are my targets to raise revenue as a small business owner? What's my quota? And I've always got to be laser focused. I asked SCs when I first got here what their quotas were. Half of them didn't even know what it was. I'm like, all right, things have got to change. I'm not in this for the philanthropy. I'm a capitalist. And talk to them about how, over-attaining their quota can change their lives financially and their financial future, generational wealth of their families. And then talking about how we start to own the pipeline. Not just own it from an activity standpoint, and SCs weren't really getting involved in pipeline generation activities, but knowing the coverage models and getting them to actually own it. How big is your quota? What is our 4-quarter rolling pipeline? And start to manage this. And what are the activities that you're doing to affect this? And how much do we need? And just starting to get people to look at it differently. So those are the first 3 pillars. The next ones after this, strengthening the collaboration between sales and solution consulting. And so really the most successful organizations I've ever worked with and I've seen, and the most successful teams is where the SCs and the sellers are working hand in hand. They can finish each other's sentences. They are strategic partners in the planning. They can fill in for each other. And so we had that here in pockets, but we needed it globally. So this is another area. The fifth pillar is building foundational processes for scalability. So a lot of what I've told everybody is we're going to put things in place here in 2025 that might seem like, well, how's this going to help me in 2025? Well, they might not, but these are foundational things that I'm looking for 26, 27, and 28. If we want to increase our revenues 30% year over year, I'm looking at how much additional headcount. I'd like to be, we're about a 140-person organization. If I want to be at 300 or 400 SCs over the next 3 or 4 years, I can't scale right now. We don't have a repeatable process. Everything's a one-off. We're building a demo hub. We don't even have a demo hub yet. Everyone's got their own little repositories of demos. And so just putting in place a lot of these things and managing KPIs. And so just putting in the foundation to help us scale and grow. And then finally, and this is an area that's come up a lot lately, people management and talent development. I think this is a really important part of any organization. And this I'll put on my MBA hat here, even outside of is that I felt that even just company-wide, there's a lot of people that are in positions that they were either promoted into that maybe they, just from time and grade, whether they had the skills, but nobody was helping them. They weren't giving them the training that they need to develop leaders and then help train leaders to develop other talent. That's just an area about coaching and then helping people with a lot of potential, become high achievers, maybe people that shouldn't be here. How do you manage them out? And just really putting in place a metrics-driven culture where we're constantly developing our talent. So these 6 pillars are what we're doing. And basically, I've laid it out to the entire SE organization. If what you're doing doesn't fall into one of these 6 boxes, shouldn't be doing.
So how do we get our hands on the book, Gregg? So as I was listening to you, I'm trying to refrain from taking notes because I love taking notes and I love to practice active listening. So I'm hearing every word.
Yeah.
I can't help but think, man, I want to see this in writing and I want to see it in a PDF so that I can basically, as a leader, go through my quarter and say, where am I focusing? Right. So is this something that you've published publicly or is this something that you just have internally?
I wrote an article on LinkedIn a few weeks ago and people can start there. And that's a good start. I think look, I've gotten a couple of different book offers about writing about my experiences, over the last 10 years, going from the public sector to the private sector, going into pre-sales. And I'm definitely working on a few things. I started that when I left ServiceNow. I published an article about my reflections, and that solicited a couple of book offers. And I think I'm calling this together to kind of talk about my journey of how I got here And then we're going to talk about how we rolled out SC 2.0 at Appian is going to be part of the story. So I will be publishing more and more
Yes.
as we start to
All
evolve.
right.
So free stuff online, but then long term, there's a book in this here in terms of because a lot of the things that we're bringing to this paradigm of SC 2.0, where I think I'm in a very unique standpoint, and this is kind of what I brought to my pre-sales role at ServiceNow, is I was the customer.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I was the guy that, I managed all the capital investment application development at the FDIC for 7 years. And so there was like a $200 million capital investment budget for application development. So the vendors were all lined up. And the companies that got my most business as a customer were the companies that had the best SCs and the best AEs that became my business partners that helped me really evolve my business, not just put, purchase orders for cool technology in front of me with fancy demos. So that's kind of what I bring to pre-sales. It may be a little bit differently. I'm always thinking of the so what. I'm always thinking like I was in the other guy's seat. I know what they're thinking. I know
Right.
the problems they have to solve, and it's not getting a really cool demo of a great technology. That's a piece of it. But, everybody's got a boss they're trying to impress. Even the CEOs, they got a board of directors they're trying to
That's
impress
right.
investors. And so how can you help them? And so SE 2.0 is about not just helping our customers, but helping sales, helping product, helping marketing, helping all of these different areas that we work with. And when you help people, not only are you more successful, but you're going to be brought into a lot more conversations and things because you will always tap on people that help you. So that's kind of part of this. But I will be publishing and sharing a lot more. So
Just so many gold nuggets in this. And I think from the helping person standpoint, I couldn't agree with you more. The rise of AI has and is my hot take is
I
like
love it.
the rise in like the sort of seamless, seemingly endless amounts of AI driven marketing gives us the opportunity to undercut all of it with human relationships,
Oh,
right? And so it's now the time to double down on that, is my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I mean, you can't have a conversation with a customer. You can't have a conversation with a partner. You can't have a conversation internally with anybody inside this company or any other company without talking about AI.
Yeah.
Um, but what's missing from all of these conversations, is that human element
Yeah,
of
that's right.
so what? And it's not about having the best AI, and it's not about having the best data. I think it's about having the best solutions around that. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad to be in solutions consulting because the customers that I'm meeting with, and I got to go back and I'm talking with a car manufacturer in the UK again next week. And this is what they're asking for. Like, how can we use AI to actually run our business better? Where we're not looking to summarize cases faster. I'm not just looking to say I did agentic AI and I programmed a bunch of agents to go and do manual work. Great, we got that. That's table stakes. How can you help me transform my business? And I think the part of this, which really going to speak to pre-sales, and this is for all people in pre-sales, is that the pace at which the change can be implemented with AI now, with all of your solution sets, whether you work for Reprise or ServiceNow or Microsoft or Salesforce or Appian, is accelerating astronomically. I was interviewed a couple of years ago about, hey, are we going to need coders anymore with AI? I'm like, of course you will. I said, but a coder is going to become way more powerful now. They're going to be able to implement a solution that would have taken a development team like 4 or 5 years in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what problems does that create? That creates cultural adoption and organizational change. And that's where a pre-sale solution consultant can come in and actually help. It's not just about demoing the technology, but let me give you insight into how other companies are actually. So you're starting to become much more of a business consultant. And if there was one takeaway I could say about SC 2.0 that I'm really starting to reframe just the psychology here at Appian for SCs that have thought a certain way for a long time. I'm like, you're going to become a much more valuable business professional because what you don't realize is your superpower isn't how well you know the Appian technology and can answer all the technical questions. Like, yeah, you got that. it's giving your customers insight into what other customers are doing.
That's right.
How are insurance companies solving this problem? How are government agencies solving this problem? How are FinServ companies, managing this problem and underwriting new loans? And this is where you can start to give some organizational change and some insight. They're using AI like this, but here's a really creative way you can use AI like this. And I've seen this in SEs start to convert in the last 3 weeks. I spent a week in Australia meeting with banks and sharing them with them generic stories of how banks are using AI here in the US to solve problems.
That's amazing.
Game-changing stuff. Not a demo, a story.
Right. A story. I think the next stage of this is like, let's say I'm listening and I've heard a whole bunch of good stuff I want to do, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard basically, I'm sitting here nodding my head because I am too, right? I'm nodding my head because guess what? Like that's exactly my belief on the solutions profession.
Yeah.
Running PreSales Collective for a year and a half and talking to leaders every single week. This is what I've heard the forward-thinking, revenue-focused, executive level pre-sales solutions leaders. This is where the profession really sits. But a lot of people don't have organizations where they're making this level of impact yet, and they want
No.
to, right?
Yeah.
And they're hungry for it. And I think sometimes it's hard to get started. So let's say somebody's listening and they're like, hey, I need to get my team to evolve the way you've said it, Greg, because
Yeah.
I want to be forward facing. I want to be revenue focused. I want to be a partner. I want to be a storyteller.
Yeah.
What's the very easy first step? How do you begin?
I think the best ways to begin is kind of take inventory of where you're at today. And I think, don't let good enough be be the enemy of perfect. And so I think sometimes people like, until I come up with the entire strategy and I button everything up, I can't get started. No, like I'm an impatient New Yorker. I like to get, I want things done yesterday. So I think you've got to get started with a vision. And it was funny because like now that I've been presenting a lot of this internally, a seller asked me the other day when I was presenting this at orientation, he's like, how did you even know to put together a vision statement? I'm like, well, this is my MBA hat. You're running an organization. This is a business. You're running solutions consulting globally for Appian, but it's a business. And so you have to put together some kind of vision or North Star that's going to incorporate everything that you're working towards. That stuff actually works. That's not just stuff you learn in business school or, you're reading a case study. It actually works. And when you don't have it, it confuses people. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the best way of, give it any type of change. You got to give it a name. You got to give it a brand. You've got to give it an idea, a philosophy, a something. What is it? What does everything we do fall under? And so that's where, I just called it the next generation SC. You're like, okay, and then a vision statement of what you do. So you got to give people a vision of it. Then I think the next thing is you have to learn what motivates the people that you're trying to change. And so whether those are the SCs itself and you want them to do something different or evolve or mature, maybe stop doing certain behaviors, start doing new one, or you want sales to be accepting of using SCs in a different way or engaging in capacity. You always have to lead with what's in it for them. And so, this is where, maybe some of my reading in psychology, like I'm a huge student of the game. I'm constantly reading books. There's a ton of books over there in the corner.
I can tell.
I'm always trying to figure out, and not just reading books, but observing. Observing leaders and at customer sites within the organizations I work for, who's doing what, how do people talk about them when they leave the room? And what I've learned in 25 years of business is that human beings were obsessed with pain. We as a culture, as a species, we are obsessed with pain. So if you want to help people, people spend 10 times more on painkillers than they do on vitamins. What does that tell you? It's probably why we have a drug problem in the world, but
right.
People would rather take away something painful than do something positive. So if you want to appeal inside your organization to rolling out a new type of framework around solutions consulting or pre-sales, take away their pain. Appeal to something that's painful. Hey, SCs, you have to build a demo from scratch. We don't have to do that anymore. You want to get more involved. Like you want to get ahead in life. You want to make more money. You want to become a more valuable business professional. Well, this new thing is going to make you a much more valuable professional. Sales, you need more help in the sales process. You need more help with qualification, growing the size of the deal, showing some thought leadership to your customers. Well, we're going to help you do that. Marketing, you need help doing this. We're going to help you with demand generation and doing this. So you always want to appeal to whatever you're trying to do, how that's going to help the people that you need to actually help you. Kind of sounds counterintuitive. And that's kind of was the first thing that I did here. And I think that's probably a great way to get started. And the first thing that I really hooked onto in all those 6 pillars I laid out there was storytelling. Because it's such a foundational thing.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And I just, take a great story or a great solution that everyone kind of knows, within your company and reframe it in a completely new way that's so much more powerful. And I think this is the biggest lesson around organizational change for all my pre-sales counterparts and brethren out there. I see a lot of people fail at implementing change because they're trying to win debates and theoretical academic conversations. Just do it. Show them what good looks like. And that's the best way to get people to come along. Don't say you're going to do something, do it and then show them what good looks like and they usually come along. So sometimes you don't even need to start with the vision or the whole structure. Just start doing it and pull in a couple of teams and then show everyone else. And now you can kind of roll it, rinse and repeat it. Like this, I introduced a completely new storytelling framework at the company of Appian now. Now, I kind of wanted to do that because they weren't really good storytellers, but I'm like, I'm just going to do it within the SE org.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll show other people if they're interested. I think other people might have taken a different approach. Like, I'm going to go, before we go off and do this, I'm going to get buy-in from everyone. I'm going to convince the power players. I'm going to get in a conference room. And they would have spent 6 months debating this, whether or not we should do it. I just did it, showed it to them. They loved it. And now they want to use it.
Yeah.
So, just, the Nike kind of just do it. Like, just show people what good looks like is the best way to get people to adopt a new way of doing stuff. Other SCs, sellers, and whatnot. So.
That's a great take. What good looks like is a term I use often, all the time. People who work with me are tired of it, I'm sure. But yeah, giving people a glimpse into what good looks like, and it applies to everything in your life, right? We've all bought a car. What does a great buying process look like? I don't know. I know what a bad process looks like. But if you show me what a good process looks like, I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I'll do the good thing. I'll schedule it instead of show up without scheduling it, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, no, you don't want the good process. You'd rather keep the old process,
I want to go towards the good, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes my theory here is that, especially this goes to your prospects, and it could be any company you work at.
Yeah.
Let's use Appian, for example. Your prospect who has never used Appian doesn't know what great looks like with Appian.
No.
You have to be the one to tell them because you're the expert. So as a solution consultant, you have to say, here's what great looks like. And you're in charge of that story.
It is so fundamental
Yeah.
to what we do. I'm shocked at how many, it should be like the first thing they talk about in solutions consulting or pre-sales. It is giving people a vision of the future. You have to, like that. You're selling them a vision. You're not selling them a product. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. You are selling them a vision, and how well you can articulate that vision is going to impact how they feel. And again, going back to Simon Sinek, people buy with their feelings, not with their logic. It's, they might make purchasing decisions at the end of the day, some logic in the button up the screws, but really what we're doing, it's how people feel. And,
That's right.
And storytelling is the key, giving them that glimpse of what the future and what good looks like. And it's that brochure, like, when you talk about, not selling features and functions and selling a vision, it's like when you go to buy a new house, do they start showing you the plumbing and the electrical wiring and getting into, let me show you all the cool little thing, or do they show you, let me show you what the finished house looks like. Let me show you the curated lawns and all the great parties you're going to have there. They give you a vision.
That's right.
We'll get into the details later, right? So
I can immediately I just right when you said that, I thought of a cookout with hot dogs and the
I
dog,
know, right?
the
Like
sprinkler going and all that stuff. It's baked into us at this point, right?
totally. We had last year, my daughter graduated from high school and we had this huge backyard party. And it's like my wife and I love having backyard parties. Like when we're building our house, like that was the vision, right? Like
Yeah,
that cookout, that backyard party, everyone, good weather, everybody having all this good stuff here.
yeah,
Not the details of let me tell you what the deck's going to be made out of and the stones,
right.
and when you're selling software in your pre-sales, right? Guys like to or gals like to jump right into the details. Let me show you our AI and data fabric and it hooks in here. And I'm like, great. What's the vision? If I can reduce the cost of doing these loans by 20%, now you've got my attention.
That's right.
That kind of stuff. So yeah.
We've talked a lot about so what I think when I break down the SE 2.0 vision and the pillars,
Yeah.
I think of a highly skilled or mastery around leadership to get the entire internal company buy-in, to get the culture to change, to bring in new talent, to take that talent development and bring people who have never seen this kind of thing
Yeah.
and bring them up, upskill them.
Yep.
What do you think? And I'm just going to choose one because there's a lot of them, but what do you think is your favorite skill, or what one skill you think every go-to-market leader should master? Because we've talked about just a handful of different things. What do you think is the number one?
Well, there's a lot there. I would say energy and inspiration. It's the number one thing. That has always been kind of my superpower. Like people want to come to work and work for people that are inspired, that have energy, that have that focus, that have some purpose. Like it inspires you, like it's
Yeah.
contagious. And so if you don't got that, then go get some Red Bull and go, like it's kind of part of like where you see all the keynote speeches, like follow your passion in life, go do, I yes and no. I say find your passion. I didn't know that I was passionate about pre-sales because I didn't even know pre-sales existed, or solution engineering or sales engineering, whatever your thing of choice is. But I tried a lot of different things, and I found out that I was very passionate about this, and I was really
Yeah.
good at, and this was the profession I was born to be in. And so when I'm doing this, it's like it comes through, whether I'm talking internally, like I get the same reaction, whether I'm talking to the CEO of Appian, Matt Colgins, or I'm talking to any of our founders, or I'm talking to people, sales leaders, or I'm talking to customers. The same takeaway is like, dude, you're really passionate. You get me excited about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say as a go-to-market professional, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're in pre-sales, whether you're an SDR, whatever your role is, that energy and that passion and that inspiration, people pick up on it. And people want to be around people like that in
People
general.
want to
Like
be
people,
around
you
it.
want to be around that, so you want to buy from that and you want to follow that direction and you want to be a part of that organization. Like part of it is that leaders leave a wake, right?
Right.
And good or bad, they all leave a wake. And that's why I like to pay attention to how people talk about leaders when they leave the room. I've got extensive notes over 20 years, mental notes, physical notes of, a lot of leaders have blind spots where they don't realize that. And when I was at ServiceNow for my first year, and I completed, it was a crazy year going from the public sector to the private sector, going from, into this new pre-sales job. ServiceNow now at the time was a growing company. We're doing platforms. I was doing my MBA, had a baby, building a house. It was the year from hell. I didn't know how I was going to survive it. And at the end of that first year, I'm having a skip level conversation with the global solution consulting leader at the time. And he's like, all right, so what so smart, you got your MBA, like he's like, the word I asked him for some feedback, like he's like, you did a great job. He's like, word on the street is you're coachable. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Coachable. That's one of those like,
Yeah, like he's like, well, that means when we give you feedback, you take it and you do something with it. And so like I learned really early on, like that was the feedback, like like be coachable, like that, like people respond to your energy and your inspiration, or do this or don't do that. And that's when I found out that I could play again, I was in the public sector, which was slow, and then I moved to the private sector where it's super fast. And a lot of that is in go-to-market. People pick up on that energy and that inspiration. And so it's a constantly evolving. The way that you're selling this year is going to be different next year than it was last year. And so you have to constantly be listening and not be defensive about different ways to do different things. So I would
Yeah.
say the number one thing here about any of this is that inspiration and have that energy and passion and let everyone know it will come through. You can't fake that. So
Yeah. Love that. Um, I've certainly never received feedback that I was not energetic enough, so I appreciate that a lot.
my interactions with you, Chris, you're not low energy, dude.
Yes, so that's good. Well, I ask you a couple of, I would say, hot takes. These are more personal questions, and
Sure.
then we'll wrap. So,
Yeah.
the first question is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Slow down. Slow
Why is that the worst?
down. I think it was I think somebody was trying to get me to assimilate to a very kind of unproductive culture.
Yeah,
I don't really want to mention the place or the time.
that's fine.
But it was the wrong advice. And I did it for a while and I became somebody that I wasn't. And it was the worst advice. I look, there's a time and a place where you need to be patient in your career and your life, and that's fine. But you need to be the CEO of your own career and your trajectory. And I see more people waiting around for someone to do that for them. Like the reason it was the worst advice I ever got was rather than slowing down, what I should have been is speeding up to create opportunities that I wanted. And when I started to do that and ignore the slowing down is when I started having wild success. When I would apply for a job that I was either unqualified for or wasn't qualified yet, I'd look at all the things that were required you needed examples of, and then I would look at my current job and see what I wasn't doing, and I would just create opportunities to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
I tell my boss, I'm going to go do a project that does this because I know I need a project like that. And some people say, slow down, don't do that. You're moving too fast. You're intimidating people. Nah, it was the wrong advice to slow down. And so when I started speeding up is when things started happening. So don't slow down. So,
yeah, yeah. What I hear out of that is just like be in tune with your purpose, right? Be in tune with your why, like what makes
yeah.
you tick. It might have worked for them, it didn't work for you, you know?
Everyone's got to blaze their own trail, but like I think maybe on the juxtaposition, somebody says, no one's ever going to care about your career more than you. So you got to drive it. And
Yeah,
somebody
that's right.
tell me to slow down. And, I don't know. Don't slow down. Life is short. Go get it. So,
Yeah, yeah. The next is what's the best advice? So on the other hand, what's the best advice you've ever received?
the best advice I ever got, was find your voice. So my first year at ServiceNow, when I got back into pre-sales and go to market, I was doing a lot more public speaking again, where I did that early in my career and I loved public speaking. But then I had did it for a while, and I was very uncomfortable at ServiceNow in the very beginning, doing it and trying to imitate other people. And there was one leader in particular that took me aside and was like, "All right, dude, you need to calm down. Like you're trying to be something you're not. You're trying to emulate what you think a caricature of a really smart tech guy should be and memorize facts and features. He's like, forget all that. Forget what I'm doing, what you see other great people at ServiceNow doing. Find your voice. You've got something to say. What is your thoughts on all this? Make
Yeah,
it genuine, real. And once you find your voice, other people will buy into that and listen. It'll become very easy. And I did. And so whether I'm running a meeting, I'm on a podcast with you, I'm presenting to the CTO of Jaguar Land Rover, or I'm in talking to the CIO of defense down in Australia, or I'm in Tokyo talking to Kawasaki. I am myself in all of those circumstances. I talk the same way. I talk from the heart. I'm passionate. I love technology. I'm curious. And once I found that was my voice, what I found was interesting and curious in my observations, my career just started to explode. My team started to explode. My go to market, my ideas, everything. It was the best advice. I wish I got it sooner. Just be yourself. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people, well, I'll tell you, like, don't emulate me. Find your voice. Don't. I mean, I do great presentations. Do yours. Like, do it in your style. Don't try to imitate me. People, when you're in a room, you get captivated, whether you're in a boardroom doing something internal or you're external doing a customer presentation, people buy into the sincerity. And so think about your life's journey. We all have different journeys. We all arrived where we are in a different path. We all find things that are just interesting. You find that authentic voice, everything else will click into place. Once I did that, it drove my written communications, my verbal communications, my style, my everything, my
Yeah.
voice. I thought about my framework, and that was the best career advice. So you know who you are. Thank you, the person that gave me that advice.
Oh, dude, love that. I'm so
Yeah.
fired up now.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I think that wraps us up. The last question was about I always like to ask if anybody has any parting advice, but you just gave such great advice. I can't imagine you want to add anything to that. Anything to add?
Um, this is the best time to be in technology. And I know everyone says that like every few years, oh, it's the best time. It's the best time. This is the best time. I
Yeah.
mean, this is where we are going to make this big leap that I think was even bigger than the dot-com boom, bigger than the cloud boom and, bigger than the mobile boom. This is just a ridiculous time where, and I know we're so tech focused, but the way we can transform society and companies on a scale that we've never quite seen before. And being in pre-sales, we are on the front lines
That's
of this
right.
change. Like
That's
it's
right.
I tell my kids, this is what I'm doing. I'm helping companies, do clinical trials in a quarter of the time. Like, I'll leave you with this. My favorite story, and it's a public story, so I can share it, that I discovered here at Appian is for 𝐀𝐁𝐎𝐿 autism. And this is personal since I have daughters with some learning challenges and disabilities. And they're using Appian's AI on average to get access to autistic spectrum services takes about 6 months on average.
Okay.
And I can tell you the stress of a parent waiting to get access.
Sounds like a decade.
And it impacts the family.
Yeah.
And the reason that it is because with children, every moment you don't have access to that type of care actually impacts how effective the care can be because it's developmental care. And so the reason this takes so long, 6 months to get access to care, is because of what an unstructured and manual process it is. And in behavioral medicine, there is no standard record format. So it's a perfect use case for AI
Right.
because people could submit doctor's notes and diagnoses in like 1,000 different formats. And
Right. Right.
something intelligent enough to be able to react to it. Like if somebody's looking at a different piece of paper every day, it's going to take 6 months. And so in 3 weeks, they used Appian to get this down to less than 10 days.
No
That
way.
is transformative. I mean, that is, and not just doing it faster, but doing it more accurate, making less mistakes, getting them access to the care. It's just like so profound. And like I share that with colleagues when they ask me what do I do for a living. I don't get into pre-sales, I don't get into marketing, I don't get into pricing and architecture and enterprise. Like I tell them that.
Yeah.
Like the end result of all of this is I'm helping companies do that.
That's right.
That's something that I don't know we could have said that we're being able to do that in 3 weeks. 5, 6 years ago, could we have done that? No way. You have
Yeah.
team together and you have to do this. You get everyone to change their formats and get a standard record. No. Like just with everyone's submitting chicken scratch doctor's notes, we can use AI now as part of our solutions to do things very fast. And so like that, it's an exciting time to be in technology. It's an even more exciting time to be in pre-sales. So thanks for having me, Chris.
That's great. Thank you so much. We'll share your LinkedIn, which is where I found your SC 2.0. We'll
Yeah,
share this across the world. Please do it as well. Let's spread the great word. And thank you so much for joining me.
you got it, man. And look, we're hiring. So if you're looking for a new place to come and you want to join the SC 2.0, ton of
Let's
jobs.
go.
Come on.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Greg.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye bye.